A pyramid almost as large as Menkaures rose on the highest shoulder of the Memphite plateau. Then it was torn apart, stone by stone, until only an open wound survived in the sand. Why would Egyptians build a royal tomb and let it be devoured? And why would a king abandon the solemn axis of Giza for a wind-scoured northern height? The key carries the name of a god and a title spoken for the first time, and the revelation waits inside the ruins. What vanished still shapes history. The fate of Djedefre's destroyed pyramid rewrites the dawn of royal solar ideology and shows how easily memory can be quarried. In the stolen stones we read one age's politics, another age's faith, and the very human needs of those who came later. We are around 2566, 2558 BCE. After Khufu's colossus, the throne passes to his son Djedefre, the first pharaoh to publicly assume the epithet Son of Ra. Instead of placing his tomb at Giza, he looks to Abu Rawash, the northern tip of the Memphite necropolis, within reach of Heliopolis, the temple city of the sun god. Was it a dynastic rupture or a theological declaration? Inscriptions suggest a calm succession, yet silence itself breeds questions. The site is no accident. Here, the king draws his tomb near the place where the sun is born each day. One fissure remains. What forces pulled him so far from Giza? Scale speaks first. Djedefre's pyramid, lifted over a natural rock buttress that formed nearly half its core, measured roughly 200 royal cubits per side, just over 100 meters, and a planned height near 125 cubits, about 67 meters, with a slope of 51 to 52 degrees. In volume, it stood beside Menkaures. Beneath the mass, the chambers were created by the pit and ramp method, an older tradition that avoided cutting galleries through the body of the pyramid. Around it lay a full complex, mortuary temple, enclosure walls, a satellite pyramid for cult, a boat pit, a processional causeway unusually long. Every element of a mature funerary program is present, or was. Yet from above, the site reads like a giant quarry, not a pyramid. Does that mean it was left unfinished? First riddle, the unfinished myth. For generations, Abu Rawash's flayed appearance fueled the idea of a halted building site. The details say otherwise. The finesse of the footings, traces of fine limestone casing, precise alignments of the enclosure, the logic of the plan, all betray a monument completed and used. You do not see the summit rise, but you recognize a ritual order. The real story is not a failed plan, but a temporary triumph, followed by a long siege of time. Second piece of the puzzle, cannibalization. Destruction likely begins in the late New Kingdom and accelerates under the Romans and late antiquity when architects mined the blocks for projects down in the valley. Later foundations appear nearby, and local tradition recalls a Coptic monastery built with stones taken from the heart of the complex. Centuries later, in the 19th century, long caravans haul away hundreds of loads of limestone each day to feed a growing Cairo, thus the crater we see today. Third proof, statues and names. From the boat pit came fragments of red quartzite statues, painted royal heads, perhaps among the earliest experiments toward a royal sphinx. A sphinx head attributed to Djedefre, preserved in a museum today, still carries a solar sheen. On blocks and column drums, the names of his children appear. Around the enclosure, the burials of officials ring the complex like a city of the dead. The site lives, functions, broadcasts a solar program, then is dismantled layer by layer. What, then, triggered the ideological turn? Some historians see Djedefre as a deliberate innovator, placing his tomb near Heliopolis to legitimize a new theology of kingship. The king, as son of Ra, becomes the visible bridge between daylight and earthly order. Others argue for a muted family tension. An immense dynasty shadows too long at Giza, the ambition to step aside. There are even late uncertain tales of fraternal rivalries. Legends from much later ages that must be kept as legend, not fact. What remains solid is the geometry of belief. Abu Rawash anchors Djedefre's reign toward the east, toward the sunrise. Intermezzo. Between two torn blocks, the sand hides a technical lesson. The natural rock core reduces the volume of shaped stone required, speeds the building, and stabilizes the mass. The pit and ramp method sets the burial chambers deep within limestone, harder to rob in early phases. The unusually long causeway, a road of the sun, once tied the Nile Valley to the sacred precinct. You can imagine the procession climbing like a ray of light. And yet the force that conquered the monument was not an army, but necessity. Cities grew, temples needed repair, monasteries sought walls. Kings die, stones remain useful. The pyramid became a warehouse of materials, and its modern mystery is the product of an unforgiving economy. When memory cannot pay the rent, stone returns to the market. Irony reigns. A tomb designed to seize eternity became the greatest donor of eternity to other walls. Now the promised payoff. Abu Rawash was no whim and no flight from Khufu's shadow. It was an anchor toward Heliopolis and a proclamation. Son of Ra was not merely a title, it was a map. The monument is not the greatest failure, but the most impressive invisible success. It existed, functioned, gathered cult, and was then dismantled with centuries of efficiency. The pyramid's cult name, tied to sky and stars, has become literally sky. Through the gaps you see exactly what the king invoked. The epilogue presses where it hurts. Abu Rawash forces us to see history as an architecture of survival. What we call a mystery is often the trace of a very competent dismantling. From a wound as large as a royal tomb runs a lesson for the present. Heritage dies not only by forgetting, but also by usefulness. Which other monument, robbed into silence, is quietly redrawing our maps of the past? And what do we choose today to leave standing for the eyes of the future?